Hello everybody, Travis here for Tpull's Corner, and we are going up against Phil. Okay Phil, be on your guard. He's already brandishing weapons. We're near the end of Evergreen month, the month of June. And I think we put out the Vengeful Strangler. We're going to just ignore it anyway and attack. Every year I set aside the month of June to do mostly stuff with the Evergreen terms that Wizards of the Coast has identified. So things that are in the bold, like Kicker or Lifelink. Kicker is usually considered deciduous, meaning they don't have to use it, but Lifelink is something they have to use. And what do we want to do here? I think we want to give Strangler that and get rid of Light Paws. If we've gotten rid of Twin Blade Geist, they would have just thrown the Eater of the Sword onto Light Paws. So we need a removal spell pretty fast. And there's another one. So now if they equip Eater of the Sword onto something else, it will also gain Double Strike. In the meantime, we can't use Demon's Due, which is... We wanted to focus on Scry for this deck, where you look at the top cards of your library, then put them on the bottom if you don't like them. And we can't exactly do that right now. But if they don't kill the Strangler, we won't have to worry about it. It's got Ward 2 now, and they only have 3 mana. and so we won, without scrying at all. Alright, but scrying is our general strategy for this particular deck. So let me go in and show you how the entire deck works. For everybody who's new, welcome, like, and subscribe if you would. And if you haven't been part of the Evergreen month at Tpull's Corner before, we have a playlist set up for Evergreen 2023. So especially for the newer players that don't know how everything works just yet, if you want to look at Trample or Vigilance or Lifelink or Flying or Reach or Menace, we have decks that center around all of them this month, and they're all in that Evergreen 2023 playlist. So it's a good playlist to share if you've got somebody new to the game who wants to take a quick masterclass. So we are going to use Scry. Here's Automatic Librarian. For 3 mana, we get a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, we Scry 2. And let's just go through the rest of the deck. We've got, let me show you the entire deck. First of all, the Forest for the Trees. We've got a average converted mana value of 2.8 for the casting cost, only 16 creatures, the regular 24 lands, and 62 cards. So here's Undying Malice. This gives us our creatures back. We return to the battlefield tapped. So next we have a couple of removals in case they try and attack us with creatures. Phyrexian Missionary, if we can pay the kicker cost, we can bring a creature back from the graveyard to our hand. So that's 2 more ways to get creatures back. Diabolic Intent, we actually sacrifice a creature, go look for a specific card, put it in our hand, and then shuffle. We don't have to reveal it to the opponent. 3 copies of Necrogen Communion. This is from Phyrexia, all will be 1. Enchant creature you control, it has Toxic 2. When it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control. So you can see we've got like 7 cards already as potential to get our creatures back, any one of our 16 creatures from the graveyard. So that already pumps us up to like maybe 23 if the game goes on long enough, we come across those cards. So we're already getting kind of close to the average number of creatures in a deck anyway, with the help of those spells. We have Phyrexian Vivisector, 3 copies. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1. I started with 4. I was scrying too much because I'd have too many of them out on the field. I only scry 1, so once I find the 1 card I want, I got to keep it on top of the deck. It does me no good to scry 4 times for the exact same card. So I put that down to 3. Vengeful Strangler, this is why we wouldn't be afraid to sacrifice a creature, because they usually don't block this. They usually just let it through, as you saw, and let us just keep hitting them in the face with it. But if they have like a Planeswalker we can't get at, we could sacrifice this, throw the Strangling Grasp enchantment on the Planeswalker, and if they're not willing to sacrifice the Planeswalker, then they have to sacrifice some other non-land permanent, and they lose a point of life every turn that the enchantment stays on the battlefield. Ellysil Core, legendary for 2/2, Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain a life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So we've got a couple of cards in the deck that are kind of like, we gain life, they lose life. Not a lot, but a little. Here's one that's sort of like that. Whenever you sacrifice another creature with the Flesh Taker, you gain 1 life, and you scry 1. And you can actually pay 1 mana to actually sacrifice another creature and give it +2/+2 to the end of turn. So we got our gain life in there, and we got the scry. Rite of Oblivion is an additional cost to cast a spell you sacrifice a non-land permanent. So again, you know, if we get our Strangler, maybe a cheap one like the Vivisector, we'll just sacrifice that to get rid of a Planeswalker or a 3/3 or a 4/4 creature. Since I have 62 cards already, I went with 2 copies of Rite of Oblivion. It can be a problematic card for removal. Like I could have gone with just 4 copies of Fierce Retribution, but Rite of Oblivion has flashback, so I can get extra value later if I still have pesky creatures, and maybe I don't like the idea of sacrificing the creatures I have left, but it's still a better deal than letting their creatures stay on the field. 2 Thran Power Suits, equipped creature gets +1/+1, and has Ward 2. You saw me use it to good effect just now, so I'm keeping them in. This is my maybe card, Catilda Dawnhart Martyr. She has flying, lifelink, protection from vampires, but I don't have a lot of spirits, so I'm left with enchantments. And I don't have a ton of enchantments that are going to be out at the same time, but I'm sort of counting on this thing being sacrificial fodder so I can bring it back for the disturb cost and give flying lifelink to another creature for evasion. 1 copy of Eshed Familiar. When it dies, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, so a little bit reflective of Ellysil Core there. Another removal with Legions to Ashes. Nice little card that you can exile to target non-land permanent and all tokens that player controls with the same name. So if they're copying creatures, we're going to get them all in one fell swoop. Demon's Due. 3 copies. You scry 2, then you draw 2 cards. It costs you 2 life each time you do so. I kind of consider this like worth going over 62 cards, over 60, or like the tutor cards, because I can just go sacrifice 1 card, spend this 1 card, and go get a specific card out of the rest of the 60. So this kind of replaces itself. So I don't mind going over 60. Twisted Embrace. When it enters, you enchant either an artifact or creature you control, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and as long as you're putting the enchantment on a creature, the creature gets +1/+1. Now, if we have just the Thran Power Suit out, and we don't have any creatures, we could still put Twisted Embrace on the Thran Power Suit and kill one of their creatures. We just won't get the +1/+1 bonus. Cruelty of Gix. Simple discard for the Chapter 1, then we search, tutor for a card for 3 life for Chapter 2, and then put a target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. If we get rid of one of their good creatures, maybe we get it from their graveyard. And 3 copies of Danitha, Benelius Hope. A 4/4 legendary with first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. When she enters the battlefield, you can put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. So we've got all sorts of potential combos, like we could get Ward 2 by attaching the Power Suit from our hand. We could do Twisted Embrace from the graveyard and destroy a creature automatically for not having to spend that 4 mana. We get like 9 mana value out of just spending the 5 mana. And finally, 1 copy of Kaya, Intangible Slayer. She's expensive, but she has hexproof. And notice the 0 power. For not losing any loyalty points at all, you can draw 2 cards, but each opponent may scry 1. So I chose that for the irony. We made a scry-centered deck. We've got a dozen cards that allow you to scry. And here's one where if we get an advantage, our opponent gets to scry. So I thought that was kind of amusing. For the lands, we got 1 Aganjo as usual, 1 Takanuma when we were playing black-white, and a couple of draw cards with Fair Basilica and Dross Pits, and one Field of Rune. And then we also have one Crystal Grotto, which is our 12th card that allows us to scry. And it is possible to have too many scry cards in your deck, so 12 is enough, in my estimation. I've done scry decks before, usually for Evergreen month. Usually they're involving blue. Scry for us is a mechanic that technically is still deciduous, meaning it doesn't have to be in every set, but it seems like it has been in every set the last few years. So for all purposes for us, in the digital environment, in the arena online, things like Ward and Scry and Kicker and Flashback, they all seem to be pretty much evergreen. Because the designers know we like them, they have enough data, they have enough feedback to know that we like those mechanics. That's why they bring them back. And they've been bringing them back at a greater frequency, which increases the overall complexity of the game, but I'm not complaining about that. Yes, let's have a good game. Gnawing Vermin. And they already got rid of Demon's Due and one Fierce Retribution. That's going to come in tapped. I don't really have a whole lot extra I can do right now, so I got both of these up front. So I guess we're getting rid of one. And we could be in trouble because I'm not necessarily equipped that much for quick swarm decks with a bunch of 1/1s. All they need is a couple of removal spells to keep me off balance and they'll get me. Here comes your other color. So here goes a Danitha. Would they lose? This looks like my deck. This deck didn't do too well, actually. We had it out a couple days ago. Let's go ahead and put down a Flesh Taker. And we'll go ahead and put the Power Suit on it now so it has Ward 2. Maybe we can keep it alive. There are things that can get around it, but we'll just discard a card. We do need that creature here. And their discard has been doing pretty good. I think we just have to keep what we've got, which means we're discarding the Vengeful Strangler. And they really did good with the discard cards all up front, which is usually how they get us. Discard, 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 discard. Okay, I'm done. I got nothing left. That's a sorcery, so I guess I better do it now. I forgot. It only goes after tokens of the same name. I was thinking I could get rid of both Virus Beetles. I should have saved it for Animus. And they have another one right away. And that's kind of the perfect hand for them. So, I think they're going to die. And we never got a chance to really scry. They're going to bring back the zombie as Danitha, aren't they? So we already lost one in here. They're taking a really long time. I'm not sure how we come back from this. They managed to get more land already. They got rid of all our creatures, all our cards. That has Menace. They probably have removal anyway. Oh, when's the last time you saw a Cemetery Desecrator? What did they get rid of? Another Danitha. So that gets rid of that, and I'm pretty much dead. So, I guess that's what happens when you win with a Vengeful Strangler in the first round. This happens to you. Just not a single chance. No, you gave me no chance at all. The Wizards team just took over and sabotaged me. That was very similar to a deck that I trotted out just a couple days ago, and it didn't fare too well. It did poorly. But they had all the discard they needed right up front. And then once they had all the discard they needed, they didn't really get much more after that. They got other things other than discard. How convenient. And perfect opening for mono red. Let's go ahead and put out the power suit. We'll save the kicker and bring back the flesh taker with the missionary. Never mind, we got to do something else first. See if we can afford to take the time. Urbrass Forge needs to go. We use the power suit to get rid of it, and we'd be done. Protection from red and green. And we're nearly dead. Okay, so we pay the kicker. And we have enough to pay for Undying Malice. Another Forge. Not good. And they can afford to equip the sword. So they have just enough mana to make absolute use out of everything they have. And they have trample, so I guess we use this and we just go ahead and use the Undying Malice while we can. And what do we get rid of? I think we have to get rid of that again. And I don't know what your experience has been, but this week, these last 3 days, Urbrass Forge has been played like it's going out of style. And no matter what we do, we can't catch up. And we actually got just as much land as them. But they had the advantage, and oh boy, are they getting more of it. And that's all we got left. Not enough. But that's what you get when you get 2 mythic rares and a couple of Urbrass Forges up front. And oh yes, yet another mythic rare. And all we do is get land. Alright, we're getting out here. It would be nice if I could someday get actually one of my 12 Scry cards going. You know, the whole reason I made the deck? It's very strange. During my playtesting, I was scrying extra times when I didn't want to. It's always very upsetting to me when I put together a concept deck and it tests so well, and then it's like the cards don't even exist. He said it was a Scry deck. We never saw him scry once. Alright, this deck does not do well against things like mono red aggro. I will admit that. And then I'm doing something that I do a lot. I am going light on the removal. Let's see. We finally get to scry. Okay, I think we need the creature. I'm getting enough land to cast the stuff that I want up front. That's going to be a problem. They can't attack with that, though. What do we do? That doesn't have flight, does it? So we're just going to go in and swing for 3. And if they want to exile that, they can run it up against Elasil Core with his Death Touch, and we'll at least get rid of the Argosy, if they're willing to do that. I'm kind of expecting them to have other kinds of removal. They'll get another 1/1 soldier creature token. And I think that's worth getting rid of Elasil Core. I'm well aware of the value that comes from blinking things constantly that have an ETB effect. And they're acting like they didn't know that was going to happen. Okay, so now we can bring down Danitha. And we can attach Necrogen Communion, meaning she's going to have Toxic 1, or Toxic 2. We'll just go ahead and swing in with the Automatic Librarian. They can double block if they want. And now, when Danitha dies, it just comes back to the battlefield. The enchantment will go into the graveyard, but we can bring things out of the graveyard that are enchantments and attach them to Danitha. So we got a little loop going on here for a resurrection loop. It makes sense. We got a legendary creature, right? It says she's Benalia's Hope. I hope she continues to stick around. Okay, we have Vigilance and Lifelink, so we are set. We start with this. We attack with Danitha, and they can't afford to block. They're just going to take it. because she also has first strike. So even if they double blocked, I could take out the Phalanx, and then their remaining power wouldn't be enough to kill Danitha. If they kept all of them up and triple blocked, they could take her out. But then she'd just come back. They need to get rid of the enchantment first. And if they're not equipped to do that, then we're in good shape. I guess if they had something like ossification, that would be a problem. Continue to do what they can. We just continue to attack. Aha. Yeah, I think that's the one to take out first. Get rid of one, get 4 life back. They finally kill Danitha. Necrogen Communion returns it to the battlefield, and Danitha's power returns the enchantment to her. In the meantime, we can go see what they've got in their hand. And I think Defiler of Faith can go away into the graveyard. In the meantime, I'm keeping 1 mana free because if they have an exile effect on Danitha, I can sacrifice her to the Flesh Taker. If they don't take out the Flesh Taker first, it doesn't matter. If they were playing Black and had Sheoldred's Edict, I'd just sacrifice the Flesh Taker and leave Danitha. So we are pretty much set. And all they can do is hit us for 2, but we're getting 4 back in life every turn. So we can even afford to tutor for a change. And so what card do I want? Ooh, an extra Necrogen Communion. I could go get a backup Danitha, but I kind of want Kaya, because I can afford her now. Oh yeah.
I can't stand by when evil threatens the multiverse. It's what you deserve.
I could exile the Overseer as well. This is really the dream right here. Danitha with the Resurrection combo. We found a way to poison them as well. And we got a Planeswalker out. Everything is awesome. Let's just start singing the song. Do they have anything good? We could take their Defiler of Faith. Yes, we could. Oh no. Oh, they didn't have enough mana, so they've got some poisoning going on. Wow! Look at all that stuff. Yeah, I think they did the math. Okay, let's do the Defiler Faith. Let's go ahead and exile all the poison tokens. We're going to attack with Danitha. They're not even going to kill Danitha. They're just going to block. I mean, why bother putting Resolute and Reinforcements in there then? All you need to do is block. Just block with the 1/1. Okay, there you go. They actually do want to. They do want to take it out. Okay. So first strike gets rid of the 4/4, and then we will use this to get rid of the Cavalier. And Danitha survives. And then we exile the Overseer. We get a 1/1 that gives us life and draw a card draw. And we'd be done. Recommission. So now we can't really get through with Danitha. They don't have reach. And they give up the ghost. So this is one of the combos that I was talking about with Danitha. You create this little resurrection loop. If they just kill her, she just comes back because of the enchantment aura. And then once she's back on the battlefield, she can go get the enchantment aura from the graveyard, and it just attaches to herself. And we have Flesh Taker, so if they have a way to exile her, we can just sacrifice her to the Flesh Taker and make their spell fizzle. And we'll go in and do one more. And that doesn't need to be your winning mechanism. You could have done all sorts of different things. But I saw that there was a Scry issue with the black cards. And so black-white made for an interesting kind of additional thing, because you look back earlier on in the earlier expansions and you see things like Flesh Taker, which also Scry. You're like, okay, so instead of doing blue like I usually do for Scry, let's see what we can accomplish with a black and white Scry deck. Just because nobody else makes those. And we're kind of a wonky channel for Magic the Gathering. We're not necessarily trying to win tournaments right now. We're just trying to be creative and see what kind of interesting things we can do with the cards we come across. And the neurons in my brain probably fire in a weirder way than a lot of people's. And if this is not a red, then this will be quick. It gives any white mana, and they don't give us a creature right away. And they don't really have removal because we need... Well, I could put down the suit and do Rite of Oblivion again. And look at Urbrass Forge again, right on cue. An on-curve Urbrass Forge, and all of a sudden, I can't do anything. Basically, I don't even have the white mana to use a Ganjo. They still didn't give me any planes. They really made sure I didn't have options, didn't they? I mean, really, an on-curve Urbrass Forge again? Did I mention I've been facing Urbrass Forge like it was going out of style? They're going to be able to just empty their hand, and we got left with a bunch of stuff that we can't use. We can't even scry because Etchings exiles it. And there ain't nothing left. All we could do was get rid of Urbrass Forge. And there's the white mana, and it's too late. We are dead. No matter what we did, they had lethal, I think, next turn. Okay, Wizards. Every time I win one, you throw mono red aggro my way. I've already admitted that mono red aggro can beat me. But we only have 16 creatures. I'm wondering if it's the type... I wonder what key card it is that has them throw up Urbrass Forge against me, because we weren't dealing with it last week. It just wasn't showing up. And now, the last 3 decks I've done, it's everywhere. Maybe Fable of the Mirror Breaker, since it's been banned, Urbrass Forge just took its place as a 3-drop. I haven't gone to check out the latest meta to find out what's going on. That's a lot of cards. They've got the ramp, but they didn't have an extra land. And this is so much better than the white instant. You remember you used to be able to pay 1 and a white and you'd gain 3 life and draw a card, and instead you Can play an additional land, you gain 3, and you get a 3/3 creature with attributes. Must be fun. Okay, so what do we do here? We didn't get land. I guess we just keep on attacking? They got all their stuff in place. They're not going to miss their land drop, but we missed our land drop. Hitting our land drop might have helped us, wizards. That's a disgusting card. They're going to use it right now. Oh no, they're going to use a bite down. Okay, so we use Undying Malice on the Flesh Taker. So kind of a waste of spell for them. And we get to Scry. And hang on. That is going to be untapped land for me. I can't say thanks. It took too long to get through all that. So what do we get rid of? I think we put this on here. We get rid of Likeness of the Seeker. And then we just keep on attacking. Gross. They could add one more with that, and they do, because that gives them 9. So, Rite of Oblivion, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to sacrifice the power suit for it. And then we're going to attack. And we'll sacrifice the Vivisector, and we'll go get Danitha. And so I think I did the scrying wrong. I think I could have reversed that order, right? Maybe? So, because that's just going to be shuffled away when we go get Danitha. But if they can't do anything to stop Flesh Taker... yep, here they go. I kind of need them to stop getting creatures every single turn. Okay, that's a 4/4. That's actually good for me. Oh no. That changes everything. I was so happy for 1 second. They have all this extra mana. Don't put it on... No, they're going to put it on her, aren't they? Okay, so... we target you. We sacrifice you. Are they saying good game because they think they got me? They might. It's going to be a lot of damage. Down to 10. And all I did was get land. Ugh, I needed something a little better. Okay, so I can get... Come on, it's my turn. There we go. I can get Twisted Embrace. We can get rid of the flyer. But the problem is with Ozolith and Fight Rigging and Glorious Sunrise, they have they can outscale me so fast. I need something else. I need some kind of help here. And they're just getting everything they need. Look at all those, that massive deck, and they got all this help. And that's going to be a fight. That's going to be a fight card, of course. Just what they needed. Just exactly out of 200 cards, they got their next fight spell exactly when they had more power than I had, and I get the useless spell, and they didn't give me much in the way of Scry. Yeah, that was... You kind of got everything you wanted in life. And I drew land. And then a useless card. And this happens a lot with the 200 card decks and the 250 card decks. They just really, they draw all the land that they need. They never end up starved for mana. You know, they matched us land for land every single time. And they managed to get all their setup for their combos. And they always get a creature when they need it. And they always get removal when they need it. It's the perfect mixture. And it really doesn't make as much sense because there's supposed to be RNG here, right? Random numerical generation for the cards. But you see they got enchantments when they needed it, they got instants when they needed it, they got other enchantments there, and creatures. So perfect mix of everything. And what did we get? We got one instant, a couple of sorceries, a couple of... Well, we kind of got one of every type, so maybe I can't complain. Maybe I complain too much. It's just frustrating when I create those 200 card decks and they don't give me the land I want, or they don't give me the spells I want, and I get like 4 copies of an instant. And so I was comfortable going to 62 cards because I had the 2 cards that were going to be tutor cards that were going to replace themselves. And instead it turned out to be a card that I drew exactly when, out of all the cards in the deck, the card that was extra that was supposed to help me when I needed it is the one that Wizards chose to give me precisely when I didn't need it at all. And that's the story of my life on this game. But anyway, it was kind of an interesting deck to me. The combos work. Kai is awesome. Danitha, whatever she gets. If she gets the Threatened Power Suit, she gets War 2. If she gets Twisted Embrace, she destroys another creature. If she gets Negligent Communion, she becomes immortal, basically. And the rest of these, if you can keep anything else out, if they don't remove them right away for support, then you can quickly tip the balance and you can run away with the game. It's possible that maybe I go down to 1 Diabolic Intent. We'll do that. Maybe I'll test it out a little bit more at 61. And if I get one of those, I can make good use of it. And the problem is, I keep getting both of them early on in the match, too early for me to be useful, and my opponent's always got some way to remove the sacrifice fodder that I have before I can get to use it. So we'll go down to one of those, and I'll make that the deck list. But I'm interested in anybody else trying this and seeing what you think of it. But we'll leave it there. Thanks, everybody. As always, remember to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks. Have a good one.